You are listening to the Next Play podcast, the playbook for high-performing leaders who want to exceed their full potential. From walking on the Ole Miss football team at 5'7", 150 pounds and earning a full D1 scholarship, to coaching thousands around the world and working with massive organizations like IBM. I've learned countless lessons that I'll be sharing right here with you. Join me as I interview some of the most successful people so you too can learn how to focus on always moving forward by deciding, planning, and executing on the next play relentlessly. All right, good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing well. How to embody a grit attitude. So here's the question. All right, here's the question. Talent and intelligence, right, IQ, being equal. If we have two people, one person is very talented, very high IQ, and then we have another person, very talented, very high IQ. Why is it that person A is going to accomplish much more than person B? Why is this person accomplish way more than others? All right, and this is a question a lot of people ask. I ask all the time because I'm so focused on soft skills, and I have to ask this question. Why is it possible? How does certain people who even have less talent and a lower IQ accomplish much more? Whether that's in health, wealth, relationships, doesn't matter. And so my question for you is, oh, Siobhan, okay, I see it's frozen. Yeah. I'm just going to go ahead and remove it again. So my question for you is, what is grit? The truth behind grit. And I'm going to share with you 5 ways to embody the grit attitude. Listen, gritty people are more likely, regardless of talent and IQ, to be able to achieve much more than people with a much higher talent and IQ. So grit is extremely important. So let's dive right into it. All right. What is grit? What is grit? Grit is having stamina, right? Grit is, well, if you were to look at the exact definition, grit is perseverance versus passion for a long period of time, not for weeks, not for months, but for years, for decades, right? A lot of people want the six-pack, but they're not willing to do the work. A lot of people want to get the promotion, but they're not willing to do the work. And not just the work for weeks, months, but work for years, right? That's what grit is. It's for years, right? And that's what makes it more challenging. Grit, here, let me give you an example. Grit is like living life like a marathon runner, not a sprinter. It's like living life like a marathon runner as opposed to a sprinter. Right? I promise you this, talent does not make you gritty. A high IQ does not make you gritty. We all know lots and lots and lots of people who are extremely talented, who are extremely smart, but don't have shit, that complain all the time, right? That don't actually have what they want. They don't live what they want. They don't look the way that they want, right? They're missing this piece, right? They're not relentless. They don't have grit. Grit is an attitude, right? And so if I'm going to challenge you with anything this week, it is to embody this attitude of perseverance, this attitude of passion for a long period of time, right? That's all it is. That's all it is. So there was a very interesting study, and if you like to read, I suggest reading the book Grit by Angela Duckworth. She got really famous when she wrote the book, she had a TED Talk on grit, and it was really short. I think it was like 5 minutes. It's really short, but it was really interesting, and she explores this question, right? Like, why is talent and intelligence or IQ? If talent and intelligence or IQ were equal, why do some accomplish more than others, right? And so, like, for example, like I look at the football field. We had 2 players. One was way better than the other, but another one had an amazing NFL career, right? You see this all the time. You see it in business, in sports, and the gym. You see this everywhere, right? So what's interesting is what she said is skill times effort equals achievement, right? But when you apply effort to a talent, okay, when you apply effort to a talent, you get a skill. And that's something we talk a lot about, right? Skill development, skill building, because nobody could take that away from you. They could take away all your money. If they locked you in a room and fed you horrible food, they could take away your gains, right? But you can't take away someone's skill set. You can't take away someone's knowledge. You can't take away someone's information. So when you apply effort to a talent, you get a skill. And when you apply effort to a skill, you get achievement. All right? And that's kind of the premise of all of this, right? So let me repeat that one more time for all of you. When you apply effort to a talent, you get a skill. And when you apply effort to a skill, you get achievement. You know what's interesting is I'm constantly saying the word effort. And like obviously I look back to past experiences of building businesses, very successful ones, non-successful businesses, doing some things in the area of football that people will say, how the hell did you do it, right? How is that even humanly possible? And it always comes back to effort. And I love doing research. And when I was going through this Angela Duckworth study, as obviously I want to present to you the best information and make it motivational. When I was reading her study, I was like, damn, I can't stop seeing the word effort. Effort. And you can't take away effort from somebody, right? You can't get, like when you're hiring somebody, you can't teach effort, right? It's really, really hard. And whether I see people on my team, whether I see people, clients that we have, some of you are on this call, there's something we can't teach, and that's effort. That's effort. And so as we're going through this, you're going to see this is one of the most important things. So I'm going to repeat this one more time because I really want you to understand this. When you apply effort to talent, you get a skill. Mandatory. Got to develop skills. And when you apply effort to a skill, you get achievement. All right? You get achievement. So we can create talent and give it effort. We get a skill, and we can apply effort to that skill. You get achievement, right? So really, really, really powerful study, and we're going to break it down. The truth, all right? I'm going to give you the truth. Here's the bottom line. I always talk about anybody can develop a skill, right? Anybody, if you can learn to ride a bike, you can develop a skill. If you can learn to drive a car, you can develop a skill, right? You can deal with failure. You can deal with rejection. You can deal with negative people. You can deal with self-doubt. You can learn the skills. But here's the deal. As I was doing research with grit, there are genes involved, just like anything else, right? Just like there is genes involved. Science doesn't actually know how to improve grit in others. I thought that was pretty fascinating, right? So yes, there are genetics involved. It doesn't mean that you can't develop grit and embody a grit attitude, because that's mandatory, right? But there's definitely some genetics involved. And as you try to figure this out, I'm like, damn, how are some people so damn gritty and some aren't? So there's genes, right? There's definitely genes involved. But even if you don't have the full grit genes, and whatever, it doesn't matter. Even though I wasn't 6 foot, 200 pounds, it didn't matter, right? So it doesn't matter. Here's the bottom line, and I always want to be transparent with all of you. Science doesn't actually know how to improve grit in others. There's no definitive science. Okay? But there are some things that science just can't explain. And I truly, truly, truly believe that. There are certain things science can't explain. Science can't explain 5'7", 150 pounds playing at the University of Alabama, right? Science can't explain always someone who's 300 pounds who has lived a terrible lifestyle and in a 1-year period can change their whole life. The way they look, the way they feel. Sometimes if they say genetics, this person doesn't have grit. This person is big boned. This person is blah, 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 blah. All the BS you hear. There's sometimes science just can't explain it. And that's so important, right? So we're going to break down 5 ways to embody a grit attitude. 5 ways to embody a grit attitude. And if you're here right now, look, it's Monday morning. It's 9:17. Started a little bit behind. It's right? This is the start of your week. This is the start of perseverance, right? And persistence towards a long and steady goal, right? So today we're going to talk about 5 ways to embody a grit attitude. Number 1, you got to be courageous. Courage fuels grit. Listen to me closely on this. Courage fuels grit, right? Courage is like a muscle, right? It has to be exercised daily. If you do, it will grow, and ignore it, it will atrophy. Very simple. It's a muscle. This is why Eleanor Roosevelt said, do something that scares you every day. I can't tell you how many people I know that live their whole life every single day comfortable. Right? Very rarely do they do something that makes them uncomfortable. I don't know about you, but I definitely want to wake up every day and feel uncomfortable. I feel off if I don't feel uncomfortable. I feel like it's too easy of a day. Right? So what's crazy is in the world we live in today, everybody's trying to remove competition, for example, right? And the problem with this is it's preventing, like, trophy for everybody, that whole thing, right? It's preventing some from actually learning how to fail and embrace it as an inevitable part of life. Like, we probably talked this more than anybody. You're going to fail. You're going to get your ass kicked. You're going to lose. Things aren't going to go your way, right? And so that's why being courageous is so important. Who gives a damn if you lose? Who gives a damn what people think? Who gives a damn if you fail? Right? When you're laying on your deathbed one day, who cares? What matters is, were you courageous? Did you go after what you want? Did you build that muscle? Because courage helps fuel grit. So important. Helps fuel grit. Number 2, conscientiousness. So this is really interesting. I was reading through it. Conscientiousness. Act with great care and honesty. Act with great care and honesty. Right? Conscientious people commit to go for the gold rather than just show up for practice. Right? These are those people, they just show up to work out. They just show up to work. But I did it. I showed up. No, conscientious people show up for the gold, for the win. Right? They have complete confidence in their ability to reach their goals and be successful. But Richie, I don't feel confident. Okay, well, you need to go through the confidence course. You got to go through it. You got to create it. They believe in themselves and their abilities, right? Like, these people have so much belief in themselves and so much ambition to see through things till the end, right? Now, this isn't every single day. You don't wake up every single day and you believe in yourself. You don't wake up every single day with confidence. Hell no. That's just not reality, right? That's why we attend these things. I attend these kind of things all the time. I have to, because I constantly have to feed myself. But conscientiousness is mandatory to grit. Go for the gold rather than just show up for practice. Number 3, pursuing your interests to perfection. This is big, and I remember, I can't remember the name of the live, but if you go through the live page, I guarantee it's this picture. And we played a video, and it's a really powerful video, really, really powerful video from Tom Brady, and he talked about pursuing perfection, right? And one thing to understand with people who are gritty, who embody a grit attitude, is that you never actually win or lose. You never actually win. Because, as like Tom Brady said, who's probably the most gritty person I know, is there's always the next one. So you're never pursuing the win. You're never pursuing the completion of the goal. You're pursuing perfection, which is impossible. And that's where it like blew my mind, right? Pursuing your interests to perfection. So what does that mean then? If we know that it's about the next one, we know you never actually win or lose, like Michael Jordan, Steve Jobs, Tom Brady. It's pursuing your interests to perfection. It's impossible to be gritty, to embody a grit attitude, if you're not passionate about it. Our definition, right? Perseverance and passion for long periods of time. So the real question is, how do you find passion? And if you haven't gone through that course, I highly recommend doing that. But according to Miss Duckworth, it's much more efficient, right, to go out and try things until you found something you're passionate about, right? Like, you can't sit on your ass all day, every day, and expect to find something you're interested about. This is the number 3, right? Pursuing your interests to perfection. If you don't know your interests, you got to go out and find it. How do you find it? Very simply, you try new things, right? You try new things, and so you find it. Once you find it, then you have to pursue that interest to perfection. But here's the most important thing to understand. Perfection is not something you will achieve ever. It's always the next one. It's always, how do you get better? How do you get better? How do you constantly evolve? How do you achieve the next goal and the next one? So pursuing your interests to perfection is number 3. Number 4, you gotta freaking compete every day. Every day I don't care if it's Sunday, even if it's for 5 minutes, you have to compete every single day. Compete with yourself. Gritty people, always. Gritty people practice and always want to get better on off days. Doesn't matter. Off days, on days, doesn't matter. Here's the bottom line. Look, I get it. You need off days. I'm in your corner on that one, right? But just because it's an off day doesn't mean you can't spend 5 minutes meditating. Doesn't mean you can't do something to compete that day. Compete with yourself. Gritty people absolutely compete with others. Like, I couldn't imagine going out onto the practice field at Ole Miss and not compete with others. You can't imagine going into your office and not competing with other people in your office, or going into to a gym session and not competing with the other people in that session. Gritty people compete with others, but they always compete against themselves. Gritty people absolutely compete with others. They wouldn't exist if they didn't have others to compete with. But one thing is, they will always compete against themselves. Always. I know we got so I'm going to give you a little example of this one. So gritty people can be really hard on themselves, and this can be a really good thing, and it can also be a really bad thing, right? So I'm going to use golf, for example. I know we got a couple golfers on here, and I actually went golf yesterday, and I've been trying really, really hard, and all of you golfers out there can laugh at me on this one, to break 90. I've done it once before, and I've been trying really hard to do that, and I'm golfing by myself. Nobody out there. It's me and the scorecard, and it's an off day. It's a Sunday. It's hey, let's relax, but can't help it. Literally can't help it but to compete to break that 90. And maybe you find yourself in that. So that might be more genes than anything else. But Richie, I don't have that gene. That's okay. You don't need to have that gene to have a gritty attitude. You don't need to have the gene, right? I think it could potentially put somebody over the edge if you're looking at transparency. But you don't have to have that. That's what makes this so cool. You have to be a little bit more, if you don't have it, you have to be more conscious of not having it and then create it for yourself. That's all. And once you start getting wins, I that's why I'm so struggling with this gene thing. Because I know people who aren't gritty. And then they start getting some wins in their life, especially if you look in like the fitness world, right? They start getting some wins. They start noticing that they're dropping weight. They start noticing that they're building muscle, and they're like, oh shit, now I'm going to go to the gym more. I'm going to do more. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to do that, right? You start getting wins, and you start all of a sudden getting gritty as hell, right? Right? So every day, do a slightly harder workout. Meditate a little longer. Stick with a boring task even though you don't want to. Make that additional cold call. Have that additional team meeting. Have that additional one-on-one with one of your staff members if you're in a leadership role, right? Damn, number 4, compete every day. Number 5, figuring out how what you do helps others. And I can't stress this one enough. There was something, and I didn't know at the time when I was at Ole Miss, there was something that was very inspirational about the ability to do what I was able to accomplish there. And this isn't about sharing a cool accomplishment, whatever. A lot of you know my story. If you don't, whatever. This isn't about that. This is not about this. But I want to give you this example. There was something inspirational inside of me that when something was accomplished, I would get goosebumps. And I'd get goosebumps because I would feel like, hey, there's a lot of people behind me that want to do what I'm doing that never could believe that it was something that they could do. And every time I achieved that, it was something very inspirational for me. And whether it was building a business, there's something that when you find something that interests you, and then you watch how it changes other people's lives or helps others in any kind of way, you get the tingles. I call them the tingles down the back of your neck, right? And it inspires you to be more gritty. Richie, why did you spend 1 year building an app? 1 damn year. Do you know how many times I dealt with developers and designers, and every time they fixed one bug, another bug came about? And then when they fixed that bug, the old bug came back. It was like rip your hair out every other day for a year. And it was because I know, and we're only doing a soft launch right now. We haven't even really launched it yet. Because I know the amount of people that will be able to help. And all of you on this call right now, building this community, the amount of people we're all going to be able to help. But if you want to become a gritty person, you have to figure out how your interests can help others. And it may just be, like for my example, inspiring others. So for example, we have somebody, if you walk into the fitness world and you're overweight and you lose a ton of weight, you know how many people are going to look at you and be so inspired by what you did? That's motivating. That was one of the things when I was at Ole Miss. If I look at being gritty, I was like, wow, there's all these people. Let's say 100. If I counted, okay, I counted how many high school kids. I did this, okay? There's like 25,000 high schools. And I said if there was five kids at every high school that looked like me and felt like me and wanted to achieve what I wanted, that's 125,000 people that I could inspire by achieving this one thing. Yeah, I wrote a book. Tons of people have read it. Whatever. #1 bestseller, all that cool stuff. But did it help others? And there's something that's so powerful about that makes you so damn gritty. It really does. It makes you gritty as hell. It makes you like unstoppable. It really does. So you have to take a step back and understand how what you do can contribute to the well-being of others. This could be your clients, right? And you might be selling a product that, damn, I don't know, but it could save them time. It could give them more time with their kids, right? It can make them more money and give them the ability to contribute more, right? Like there's always something that can go back to others, but you got to know what that is. So when you're trying to make that last 5 calls that you don't want to make, you know it's going to help others, right? And this is not only useful for increasing your grit, it also freaking makes you enjoy it more. Because if you don't enjoy what you're doing, then what's the point, right? What's the point? So that's number 5. You got to figure out how what you're doing helps others. All right? How it helps others. So my challenge, of course, as always, is I want to stick with courage, right? Now, I'm going to definitely have a PDF on this course, and it's going to go through all 5 components that you can implement. But for all of you on the live, I want to stick with courage. And I'd like for you to, if this is something you want to implement, if you want to be more gritty, is to do something that makes you seriously wake up in the morning and be uncomfortable about it as it pertains to your vision and your goals, right? And don't overthink this. This could be making a certain amount of more calls, or visiting a client that you've been scared about for a long period of time, or trying something in the gym that you've been worried about doing, or obviously be safe, right? But do something that makes you uncomfortable. The first one we talked about is to be courageous. And it's about time that this world we live in, where people aren't courageous, we create courage. And so that's my challenge for you this week. Everybody that will be watching the replay and live, I'm going to have you go all through 5 with the PDF. But for all of you here that are live, I want you to do something that makes you uncomfortable as it pertains to your vision and goals for the next 7 days. And when we meet again next Monday, we'll have something else. But you got to do it for the next 7 days. Doesn't matter. Friday night, Saturday night, doesn't matter. Do something that makes you uncomfortable as it pertains to your vision and goals. And of course, as always, you got to take relentless action. You got to do it today. It's not, hey, I'm going to start tomorrow. Tomorrow's Tuesday. Today it's rainy outside. So today I've got a busy day. My calendar's already full. None of that BS. Got to start today, right? Even if it's taking, I'm gonna hop off here in 1 minute. So even if it's taking 5 minutes right now and writing down what that one thing is you're gonna do every day to make yourself uncomfortable. But damn, you got to get uncomfortable. It's time to be courageous as hell. It's time to not give a shit what people think and be courageous. All right? So that is my challenge for you. And look, you got to take relentless action. All right? It's Monday. It's 9:35 Pacific, 12:34 Eastern time. Have an amazing week. Thank you all for being here. We're going to continue to grow, and we're seeing it. And I'm just honored to have the ability to present to all of you. So have an amazing week. Be courageous. Embody that grit attitude. And I will see all of you next Monday morning. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Next Play podcast. If you liked the show, make sure to leave us a review. For more resources, visit relentlessuniversity.com or download the free Relentless University app. And if you're interested in having me speak at your next event, visit relentlessrichie.com. Until next time.